Want to be part of something bigger? Join the Duty and Valor community and unlock exclusive rewards. As a valued member, you'll be the first to see new episodes, enjoy merchandise discounts, a behind-the-scenes look, and much more. Your support helps us keep creating the content you love. Choose a plan that works for you, starting at just $1.99. Join today. Together, we can create an amazing community. Thank you. Welcome back, everyone. Before I dive into this week's main story, I want to continue what I started a few episodes ago and highlight the heroic actions of another remarkable hero. In this week's Medal of Honor short, you'll hear the courageous story of U.S. Marine Corps Corporal David Champagne and the extraordinary bravery that saw him being posthumously awarded the Medal of Honor. As a fire team leader, Corporal David Champagne led his team in an assault on a heavily defended enemy hill during the Korean War on May 28, 1952. Under intense machine gun, small arms, and grenade fire, he skillfully guided his team through trenches and bunker positions, eventually reaching the hill's crest and setting up defensive positions. Despite suffering a painful leg wound during the enemy's fierce counterattack, he refused evacuation and continued to lead his team with unwavering determination. When the enemy's assault intensified and a grenade landed among his team, Corporal Champagne acted without hesitation. He grabbed the grenade and hurled it towards the enemy, but it exploded as he released it, severing his hand and throwing him from the trench. Mortally wounded by enemy mortar fire while exposed, Corporal Champagne's courageous actions undoubtedly saved the lives of several of his fellow Marines. And that was the story of Corporal David Champagne, a Marine who makes others proud to forever call themselves a United States Marine. Now on this week's episode of Duty and Valor, you'll hear the story of a true leader who forever changed the course of air warfare during World War II. U.S. Army Air Force's Brigadier General Kenneth Walker didn't just help shape the role of aircraft in combat, he lived it. His groundbreaking strategic vision was forged in battle, flying alongside the very men he led, and not from a distant command post. And this is his story. Kenneth was born on July 17, 1898, in Los Cerrillos, while New Mexico was still a territory. From what I could find, Kenneth was the only child born to parents Wallace and Emma Walker. After the U.S. entered World War I, Kenneth joined the Army in December 1917 and entered flight training at the University of California School of Military Aeronautics. He completed flight training and was commissioned in November 1918. He didn't see any combat during World War I and was assigned as a flight instructor at multiple locations over the next 3 years. In 1922, First Lieutenant Walker was in the Philippines as the commander of the Air Intelligence Section at Camp Nichols. He returned stateside in 1925 and was assigned to Langley Field in Virginia, before attending and graduating from the Air Corps Tactical School in 1929. In 1933, he was at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas for Command and General Staff School. He graduated in June and was promoted to captain in August, and then to major just 2 months later. Prior to the U.S. entrance into World War II, Walker served in various positions, including commander of the 9th Bomb Squadron, operations officer of the 5th Bomb Group, commander of the 18th Pursuit Group, and then as the assistant chief of the Plans Division for the Chief of the Air Corps. In July 1941, Walker was promoted to lieutenant colonel, just after the U.S. Army Air Forces was established. In March 1941, the Army wanted to streamline all air functions of the Army and eliminated the Air Corps. Though the Air Corps remained as a training and logistics element, the Army Air Forces encompassed all Army aviation during World War II. By this point of his career, Lieutenant Colonel Walker was known as a great strategic planner, which led him, along with 3 other officers, to being tasked with developing a plan to utilize the Army's air power against Germany in the event of war. The plan that was developed was the Air Wars Plans Division Plan No. 1, and it was completed after just 9 days. The plan, which became the blueprint for U.S. bombing during the war, identified vulnerable parts of the German economy that could be targeted by Allied bombers. The plan also included targeting Berlin's civilian population as the last resort to force the surrender of Germany. He was promoted to colonel in March 1942 and then to brigadier general 3 months later. After his latest promotion, he was sent to the Southwest Pacific. He wasn't there long before he started exhibiting behaviors that were uncommon among other generals. In an effort to learn what his air crews were experiencing and to develop better battle tactics, General Walker would join combat missions aboard various bombers. In July 1942, General Walker went along on 4 bombing missions over New Guinea. Though his role was only as an observer, these were real bombing missions, where his planes were subjected to heavy enemy fire from anti-aircraft ground batteries and from enemy fighters, and his planes came back with heavy damage multiple times. His disregard for his own safety raised the morale of the men he commanded. In addition, the information he gained was valuable in developing mission plans. For this, he was awarded a Silver Star. It isn't written anywhere that General Walker made a conscious effort to win over enlisted personnel, but that is exactly what was happening. Along with accompanying bombing missions, he made it a point to raise the quality of food in the enlisted mess hall. One day, after officers and enlisted ranks began sharing one mess hall, a line over a block long had formed. When General Walker arrived to eat, he went to the back of the line and waited along with everyone else. A corporal just ahead of him offered his spot in line, but General Walker declined the offer and remained at the back of the line. Moments later, a young second lieutenant felt his rank gave him the privilege of not having to stand in line, and he cut to the front. Seeing this, General Walker went over to him, grabbed him by his arm, and walked him to the back of the line. For acts like this, he was seen as the enlisted man's general. On September 3, 1942, General Walker was given command of the 5th Bomber Command, part of the 5th Air Force. He reported directly to Lieutenant General George Kenney, the commander of the Allied forces in the Southwest Pacific area. General Kenney felt that the bombers should be conducting low-level bombing runs armed with instantaneous fuses, but General Walker objected as he felt it was too risky to fly at such a low level. General Kenney then ordered General Walker to employ this tactic for a few months to gauge its effectiveness. Just weeks later, General Kenney found out that General Walker was not following his order. To prove his point against low-level attacks, General Walker demonstrated on a decommissioned ship that, though attacks were more accurate, the damage was minimized. When the two generals took a boat over to assess the damage, General Walker was proven wrong. All 4 bombs missed their targets, but bomb fragments caused significant damage to the ship. General Walker conceded he was wrong and employed the new tactic. General Kenney was fully aware of General Walker's habit of flying in combat and ordered him to cease doing this. This was after General Kenney himself was reprimanded by General Douglas MacArthur for flying over enemy territory in Papua New Guinea. One of his main concerns was that General Walker knew so much highly classified information that he would be a prized prisoner if he went down over enemy territory. Again, General Walker would disobey orders. General Kenney was incensed when he learned that while on a mission, General Walker was aboard a B-17 that lost part of its wing when it hit a tree. General Kenney then reiterated his order and told General Walker that he was to command from his headquarters. The month after receiving the order not to fly anymore, General Walker did so anyway. On January 5, 1943, a flight of 6 B-17 Flying Fortresses and 6 B-24 Liberators took off from Port Moresby in Papua New Guinea with General Walker aboard the B-17 named San Antonio Rose as it took off for a bombing run against Japanese ships at Rabaul in New Britain. Though General Kenney asked for an attack at dawn, General Walker changed it to a noontime attack. He made this decision so that the relatively small bombing group would be able to rendezvous during daylight, as General Walker wanted his bombers approaching their targets together, rather than risking them being out of formation. Hours earlier, the main target of 10 Japanese ships had departed the harbor at Rabaul, but there were many other ships to attack. The San Antonio Rose was the lead aircraft as they faced heavy flak and non-stop fighter attacks as they approached their targets. The plan was for the planes to split up and attack individual targets before regrouping and returning to Port Moresby. They faced approximately 15 to 20 fighters as they made their approach. the bombers dropped 64 bombs from an altitude of 5,000 to 8,500 feet, hitting 9 ships and damaging a destroyer. Over Rabaul, the San Antonio Rose was hit and crippled. It was last seen heading into a cloud bank, smoking and on fire, with 5 Japanese Zeros in pursuit. When word reached General Kenney that General Walker not only changed the mission start time, but also accompanied the bombers, he was furious. With General Walker's fate still unknown, General Kenney told General MacArthur that he would be reprimanding General Walker when he returned. In response, General MacArthur said, quote, "All right, George, but if he doesn't come back, I'm going to send his name into Washington, recommending him for the Congressional Medal of Honor," unquote. Along with General Walker's plane, another B-17 was also shot down. All available aircraft were sent out to find any traces of the bombers, and luckily the crew of the second B-17 were found and rescued, but no trace was ever found of the San Antonio Rose or its crew. General MacArthur's recommendation was approved, and Brigadier General Kenneth Walker was posthumously awarded the Medal of Honor for his leadership during his brief time as the commanding general of the 5th Bomber Command from September 1942 through January 1943. In addition to General Walker, the others who went down with the San Antonio Rose were as follows: Major Alan Lindbergh, pilot; Captain Benton Daniel, co-pilot; Second Lieutenant Robert Hand, bombardier; First Lieutenant John Hanson, navigator; Technical Sergeant Dennis Craig, engineer; Staff Sergeant Quentin Blakely, radioman; Sergeant Leslie Stewart, gunner; Private Leland Stone, gunner; Private First Class William Fraser, gunner; and Major Jack Bleasdale, observer. Just as a note, different sources place these men in different roles aboard the bomber, but this list may be the most accurate, as it is listed in multiple sources. Of those men, there were reports that Major Bleasdale and Captain Daniel may have been POWs for a time, but no sources definitively confirm this. Brigadier General Kenneth Walker embodied the finest quality of leadership, bravery, and strategic insight throughout his military service. Respected by officers and enlisted personnel alike, General Walker was a visionary who understood the pivotal role of air power in modern warfare, and was dedicated to ensuring the success of every mission. His belief in leading from the front, often placing himself in the same peril as his men, earned him the deep admiration of those he commanded. Thank you for listening to this episode of Duty and Valor. If you enjoyed this episode and our show in general, please like, follow, and share our show wherever you're listening. You can also support the show directly at patreon.com/dutyandvalor, or by becoming a member of our Duty and Valor YouTube community. To read more about this week's hero, check out the sources used in today's episode in our show notes and at dutyandvalor.com. Remember, we release new episodes on the Duty and Valor YouTube channel on Fridays at 5 p.m. On our channel, we also release daily YouTube shorts that highlight our nation's heroes, many of whom haven't been featured on the show yet. Please join us for our next episode, where we'll be sharing the inspiring story of another American hero who served with pride and lived with humility.